my name is Karen Fabian and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga, and I want to welcome you here to my YouTube channel, Bare Bones Yoga TV. Today I'm going to be explaining a little bit further something I wrote about earlier in the week in a blog post, and I'll link to the post in the comment section as well, so you can read the post in addition to watching the video. And it has to do with maintaining what we call anatomical position in different yoga poses. So it's going to be a little bit about anatomy, which is one of the things I love to focus on when I teach. And it's going to also be tips for applying anatomy to practice and to teaching, because this is really where I love to focus my efforts. And by efforts, I mean my online courses and my books and webinars, really looking for ways to teach anatomy, but then provide practical ways to apply it to your practice and your teaching, because oftentimes that's really where the rubber meets the road. It's not enough to just know anatomy, and when I say, of course we know anatomy is a broad subject, so it's not just about understanding the key aspects of anatomy that as yoga teachers and practitioners we need to know. It's also about applying those key aspects to the practice itself. And I can certainly say for myself, as I've focused on this as a teacher, my clarity around cueing, my confidence as a teacher, and my sense that I'm impacting and making a bigger impact has all grown because I've focused on really expanding my understanding of anatomy and ways to apply it to teaching. So this mini lesson here is a really great example of how you can do that as well. So let's look first at anatomical position, which is the position from which all movements are described. So when we talk about something like shoulder flexion or shoulder extension or hip external and internal rotation, we're talking about anatomical movements that occur from a home base of sorts. And this home base we describe as this: feet at hip width, shoulders relaxed, palms facing forward or supinated, chest broad and open. And you might recognize this as Tadasana in your yoga practice, although traditionally it's taught with the feet together. And right out of the gate you can see how that's different, because when we bring the feet together the hips are wider. So we have a narrow base and a wider midsection, and so that can present some balancing challenges. So from an anatomical perspective, in order to create really good stability, and who doesn't want more of that in their practice, right? We take the feet to hip width. So if we look at the skeleton here, you can see the skeleton is set up in anatomical position, feet at hip width. You can see how with hip width, hips and knees and ankles, joints are all aligned. And when we look at different poses and aligning the joints, we're creating that steadiness. So when we have anatomical position, what I wrote about in this blog post is noticing that the head is centered over the shoulders. And this is a key quality. We wouldn't be hunching in anatomical position, and we wouldn't have the head or the neck in extension. We have the head perfectly centered. And why do we do that? Well, we do it because we're working in concert with gravity here. We have balance, we have stability, we have alignment of head centered over shoulders. So it doesn't take a lot of effort for us to maintain this position. This takes effort, and this takes effort. And it requires the both contraction and relaxation of muscle groups in order to maintain these positions of the head. Let's just focus on the head when we are out of anatomical position. We can somewhat deal with it when we're standing, but what about in different poses where we're facing the ground, fighting gravity? And so in this blog post, I talk about a common position, high push-up moving to low push-up, right? And when we let the head fall out of anatomical position, how easily the whole movement takes on that all too familiar slumping that we do all day when we're hunched over the computer or looking down at our phones. And because of the preponderance of taking this position, we almost become unaware of it. We become unaware of how unnatural something as natural as this is. And we bring that lack of awareness into the studio, and into our different practice, into our different poses. So instead of maintaining this centered position, again, we let the head drop. But what if as a teacher, when people were in plank, we suggested that they keep the gaze downward, but lift the chin off the chest and maintain that position as they lower down. Keeping the head centered over the shoulders, that movement has a lot more integrity as we move from high to low push-up and then up dog and down dog. But it can really require a reminder to students to notice where is the head, to cue, to keep the gaze down but to lift the head, to maybe begin your classes with people in anatomical position and speak to the quality of balance and alignment of the head here. Notice in other poses, let's say something like twisting triangle, where the same thing tends to happen, or something like side angle, where that same lack of awareness tends to show up. And remember, it might not be just lack of awareness, it might be lack of strength. In order for me to maintain this head positioning as I move from high to low push-up, I have to use muscles like the serratus anterior and my upper trapezius, the serratus anterior, and even a little bit of the rhomboids to keep the shoulders flat on the back. It's really more serratus than anything else. And when we look at the serratus muscle, we're talking about a muscle that is essentially from rib cage to medial scapula. So it wraps around and keeps the shoulders flat on the back versus the upper traps, which elevate the shoulder blades, and the rhomboids, which draw the shoulder blades closer together because they reside on the back of the body and they create that squeezing action that we often see in positions like that. So if we want to keep the shoulders flat on the back, we need to keep the serratus active to prevent the shoulders from elevating. And so these muscles can sometimes be, or this muscle can sometimes be a bit weak. And so doing things like plank or even dolphin plank are good positions or poses to take to strengthen the serratus anterior. So overall, cueing to the position of the head, looking for different movements that strengthen the serratus anterior and even some of the other muscles. So even if we did things like this, or if you do kind of your forward fold, straddle fold, drawing the shoulder blades together, really just strengthening the muscles of the upper back. Something like eagle pose, right? So this is a good way to strengthen the serratus as well. As we do different postures that strengthen these shoulder muscles, shoulder stabilizers, we can give our students a better chance as teachers to make those movements with integrity. But even just visually noticing and cueing people to lift the head in different postures where their head might be dropping is helpful, even if we didn't know all the different names of the muscles and all the different resulting actions that they take. And this is, again, from a high level, one of the things that, as we understand more about the key aspects of anatomy, on a lot of levels, we don't even maybe always need to go super deep in our knowledge base in order to make an impact. If I simply understand as a teacher, as a practitioner, the qualities of anatomical position, I can bring those qualities into different postures and create better health in my postures and just greater stability without overdoing certain things that might wear and tear on the body in an unhealthy way. So I hope you've enjoyed this short mini training. As I said, I'm going to include the link to the blog post in the description. You can also find the blog post on my website, barebonesyoga.com. Go to the blog, and it's the most recent post on there from this week, this last week in November 2017. And on the website, you're also invited to download quite a few different free content PDFs on anatomy, on building sequences for yoga teaching, and you can also listen to my free webinars on the webinar page that cover a whole bunch of aspects of anatomy for yoga teachers and practitioners. So I hope you've enjoyed this short training on Bare Bones Yoga TV. My name is Karen Fabian. The website is barebonesyoga.com. Thank you for watching, and namaste.